This is the recording of the webinar that we have conducted on the topic of mastering the statistics for data science and machine learning. So thank you again for the learners who have joined with me on the live session. For the others, in case if you want to join with me on the live session, do check out the manifoldailearning.in page, and under this page, click on the webinars and you get to see the upcoming webinars. Now, the next webinar is about the demystifying the ML ops. I hope to see you on the live session. So enjoy the recording.
Okay, thank you so much everyone for joining in and welcome to this session on mastering the statistics for data science and machine learning. Now, before we get started with today's agenda, first of all, guys, I thank you so much for taking your time on this Friday weekend to join me on this webinar session. Now, here, before we move ahead with today's agenda team, I want to understand more about you. So I would request you to introduce yourself by sharing your name, knowledge in the programming, where you're from, and the domain that you're currently working. So please make use of chat option to enter the details over here in the chat window so that I can actually see it. Okay, I can see some responses already, some private responses, and I can see we are, uh, that's amazing. Okay, I see a lot of learners have responding over here in the chat window. So Indra here says that he's a beginner and he's aware of Python programming and he's currently from Bangalore. Thank you, Rajendra. What about others? So I've got Ume. Ume is from Bangalore and Ume is doing data masters in data science. Wow, that's great, Ume. Thank you so much for joining in and I welcome you for this session. I can see Kritika. So Kritika is from Tamil Nadu. Thank you, Kritika. Sorry, it is Kirutika. Okay. And I can see that Subhashini is from, okay, so Canada, and she's I think an intermediate level of programming experience. Okay, currently working in telecom domain. Wow, that's great. Thank you so much. And I've got a response from Hemant, so beginner level in Python and R, working in marketing research. That's great. Wow, thank you so much, guys, for letting me know about you. And again, I welcome you for this session. Now, as we progress in this exciting session today, we will understand about what exactly is this data science, and let me bring up the overall agenda that we have got today. So we will understand what exactly is this data science, the role of statistics in data science, followed by understanding the fundamentals of data science. Here, we will look into the data type, the concept of descriptive analytics, that is the descriptive statistics, inferential statistics, the concept of data exploration, hypothesis testing, followed by the question and answer. So this is the agenda of today's session. Now, before we proceed ahead with today's agenda team, let me just introduce myself. My name is Nachiket Murthy. I'll be an instructor for this session. I'm a data science manager working in a top consulting firm, and I'm sharing my knowledge through manifold AI learning. My role would include leading the team of 25 people, and I'm responsible for end-to-end implementation of data science, machine learning, and deep learning project, including the managing of this entire pipeline, which encapsulates the POC to the production as well as the maintenance. I've successfully led and delivered multiple data science projects from POC to the production with overall revenue closer to $100 million. And I'm a leader on MLOps approach in my current organization. I'm an author of top 10 selling e-learning content on data science. I've created multiple courses on data science, which have been published through Manifold AI Learning and other top e-learning platform where it is being referred by the learners all over the globe. And I've trained more than 50,000 learners through live boot camp. I'm a top instructor on Manifold AI Learning. So this is about me. So let us get started and let's start with the agenda by understanding what exactly is this data science. Now here, when I say data science, so data science is a multidisciplinary field. It's a multidisciplinary field, but that means here we actually have, okay, we actually have the it actually involves the various techniques, algorithms, process, and the system which is there for us to extract the insight and the knowledge from the structured as well as the unstructured data set. So in this case of the data science, so what it combines is it combines the elements of the statistics. It along with that the computer science domain as well as the data analysis, which will help us to solve the complex problem. So that's the overall idea about this statistics. Now there's a question right here. Let me just answer that question right away. Give me a second, team. So I see few questions here. Give me a second, team. Perfect. Okay. So as you can see, the data science involves the various techniques. It combines the various it is made up of various elements of statistics, computer science, along with the domain experience. Now that you know what exactly is this data science, now let us go ahead and understand what is the role of statistics in data science. Here, as I've described, so we use this data science to analyze the data set and also generate the insights out of the data set. Now, the role of the statistics is this statistics, I can say it plays a major role when it comes to the data science. Here, this statistics is the one that provides the foundation principles and the techniques that we actually use it for the data analysis. And here, to name some of the important parts where the statistics plays a major role in data science. So in data science, the statistics plays a major role in the descriptive statistics. Along with that, here it is helpful in the inferential statistics. It is used in sampling techniques. Okay, and we'll also be using in probability theory, statistical model, as well as the outlier detection. So as you can clearly see, this statistics plays a major role in various fields of data science. Now, when I say a data science, it is about finding the insights in a given data set. Now, by finding that insight, by finding that pattern, we'll be able to generate the prediction as well if we apply the statistical models on top of it. Now, let me just illustrate the importance of data science in case of working with the data set. So here, when I'm working with a data set, generally what happens is in case of traditional programming approach, I'll have an input. Now, as a developer, I'm going to write a logic which is going to get this input, process this input, and then this using this logic will generate an output. So this is what we'll be doing in the case of this the normal programming, that is the traditional programming. But in case of this data science and machine learning, what we do is we'll make use of data, that is my input data. Along with that, we'll also send in the output labels. Now, by sending this input and the output labels as an input for our data set, like here, we'll be using the statistical model. The statistical model takes this input and the output labels, and then this statistical model is the one which finds a relationship between the input and the output. So that's the main difference between the traditional programming approach and the machine learning and the data science approach. So now that you have understood the importance of statistics and data science, let us understand some of the fundamentals of statistics, which is very important for each and every learner to understand. First, starting with the data and the information. When I say data, so data is a raw and unprocessed data, which is just the collection of facts and figure. So that is what we call it as a data. Let us assume that you've got a classroom, and in your classroom, you just have the data fact about the marks secured by each and every learner in that classroom. Then each and every row over here, okay, each and every row over here, it is just the representation of the data, which is the representation of the fact. So that is what a data is. And this data is an unprocessed. That means it is just a collection of the facts. That's what we call it as the data. Now, when I collect multiple data and I'll process it, I'll structure it, and I'll organize it in a proper way, that is when it becomes the information. Okay. Now, while working in data science, we'll be generally working with the data set, which is nothing but collection of raw facts and figure. Now, using that raw data set, we will go ahead and try to find the useful information out of the data. So that's the role of this data and the information in case of data science. And here, while performing the analysis on the data set, we make use of various kinds of analysis. We have the descriptive statistics, we have the inferential statistics, and so on. So let us understand, what does it mean by a descriptive statistics? Now here, in case of the descriptive statistics, it is nothing but it is a set of summary measures and the techniques which we use it to describe and summarize the main features of the data set. And this descriptive statistics is the one that would help us in organizing and simplifying the large volumes of the data set into a meaningful and understandable patterns. So think about it. So when I talk about this descriptive statistics, let's just assume that you've got a data set which has got 1000 rows in the data. Now, this is the collection of 1000 rows. Now, from this 1000 rows, you cannot go ahead and understand each and every row. So what you will do is you will apply this technique of descriptive statistics. And once you apply this technique of descriptive statistics, this technique of this descriptive statistics will help you to get the meaningful and find the understandable patterns in a given data set. And while describing the data set with the help of the descriptive statistics, so we'll be making use of the measure of central tendency, measure of dispersion, as well as the measure of shape. So we'll be using all these measures so that we can describe about our data set. So are you clear, team, with what does it mean by descriptive statistics? Please confirm by typing as yes if you're clear. If you have got any question, please do let me know. So I see confirmation from Bhaskar. I see confirmation from Ravinder. I see confirmation from Chakresh, Hemant. Okay. What about others? Is it clear about the descriptive statistics? Okay, Kirutika, excellent. Thank you, May. Okay, Kiran says will be, yes, I'll be sharing these slides at a later after the session. I'll be showing you as how you can access these slides as well, including the session recording. Okay. Now that you have confirmed that, what does it mean by a descriptive statistics? And now that you have the basic understanding about the same, here, let us look into the types of descriptive statistics that I've just mentioned. So under this descriptive statistics, we've got the measure of central tendency. Here, in case of measure of central tendency, we are trying to represent the entire data set with the help of an individual value. So here it's a single value that attempts to describe the set of data by identifying the central position within that set of my data set. Now, under this measure of central tendency, we have mean, median, and mode. So mean is nothing but the average of a particular column. That's what we call it as mean. And when I say median, it is the middle value in a sorted set or in a sorted column. And we have a mode, which is a most frequently occurring value. Now, why do we require this measure of central tendency? Now, let me just illustrate it with a clear example. Let us say you are in a city. Okay, let us assume that you are in a city of Bangalore and you have a friend who is present in another city, let's say Delhi. Now, your friend in Delhi, he wants to shift to a Bangalore where you're currently staying. Now, when he calls you, he's going to ask you a question. Hey, can you tell me what is the house rent in your area? Now, when you think about the house rent of Bangalore in area, like in Bangalore. So obviously you will think about all the flats that you have got in your area. And let us assume that you have got 100 flats in your area. So you will say, okay, the flat number 4044, that rent or rent is this, or that particular flat rent is this, that particular flat rent is this. So you will list down all the flats and the respective rent over there. Now, in that case, okay, when you're describing the rent over there, when your friend is asking you, you cannot list down and open up your 100 list that you have got about the flat information and tell him, okay, flat one, flat two, flat three. It does not make sense to him. And the person will not have the patience to hear about each and every flat's information. So what you will try to say, you will say that, hey, the flats in my area, like if you are coming for rent, so the rent is somewhere around 30,000 to 40,000. Or you will say on an average, you can find a flat with 40,000 rupees. So what you're doing is the collection of data that you had on that collection, you're taking an average. And that is an example of taking a measure of central tendency that is a mean value. And we also have a median. Median is the middle value. Now, let me just give you an example as the importance of median over mean. Let us say, okay, in the Bangalore city, so let us say that you're staying in a place which is near to a rich locality. Now, in such scenarios, maybe there are one or two flat where the rent is over and above the general flat rates that you see. Like in general, you will see around 30,000, 40,000 as a rent. Maybe in one or two flat, you observe that the rent itself is 5 lakh rupees, that is 500,000 and 600,000 for one of the flats over there, because it belongs to some rich builder, or it is having some penthouse, or it is having some advanced it is having a very high square feet. Now in such cases, if you take an average, then your average will be very high, because you are having these two values which are very different from the general pattern that you observe. We call these items as an outlier. So this mean is generally affected by the outlier. Since mean will be affected with the outlier, so what we will try to do is we will make use of median, which is a middle value in a sorted set. Okay. And apart from that, we also have mode. So mode here refers to the most frequently occurring value. Okay. So the most common flat value or the flat rent that you observe, that is called as the mode value. So these are the three common measure of central tendency that we observe in a given data set, like that we use it to describe our data set: mean, median, and mode. Moving on, apart from this measure of central tendency, we also have measure of dispersion. Here, this measure of dispersion, it will help us to interpret the variability of the data set. That is, it will help us to know how much homogeneous or how much heterogeneous that we have got in the data set. And to measure the dispersion, we've got range, we've got interquartile range, and we have the standard deviation. Okay, along with that, the range, interquartile range, and the standard deviation. Now range is nothing but the difference between the maximum and the minimum value. Interquartile range is a difference between Q3 and Q1, and standard deviation is nothing but how much variation that we observe from the data, from the given data sets mean. So these are the measure of dispersion. So this basically helps us to understand from the central value how much variation that we observe in the data set. And then we also look into the measure of shape. Now in case of measure of shape, so the measure of shape describe the distribution or the pattern of the data set within the distribution or the pattern that we observe within a given data set. So under this measure of shape, we have got skewness and kurtosis. So skewness describes as whether the data that we have got, whether it is normally distributed or not, or whether we have got right tail, or whether we have the left tail distribution. So that means whether we have outliers towards the higher side or on the lower side, that is lower than the mean or higher than the mean. So that is what the skewness is going to help us to describe. And kurtosis describes as how pointedness that we have got when we are working with the data. That describes the kurtosis. Okay. Now, apart from this descriptive statistics, which will describe my data set with various data points, we also have the inferential statistics. Now, when I say inferential statistics, now this is a branch of statistics. And here it makes various analytical tools to draw the inferences about the population data from my given sample data. Now, this inferential statistics is what we use it in majority of cases, while especially while analyzing on real life. So that is when we'll be making use of the inferential statistics. Now, let me just give you an example. Let's say the COVID-19 vaccine testing. So when the COVID-19 vaccine was actually released, so the pharmaceutical company, they did not went ahead and tested that vaccine with each and every person in that country, isn't it? So what they did was they went ahead and selected a group of people for testing purpose. And based on the result of testing, they have said that, okay, whether this vaccine is going to work or not. So what we will do is the analysis that we do on a smaller set of the data set, we will try to extend it to a larger set. That is what we call it as the inferential statistics. So in case of this inferential statistics, you will be basically working with two important terms, that is population and sample. So a population is the entire group that you want to draw the conclusion about. And in case of sample, sample is a specific group that you will collect the data from. So population can be the population of my entire country. Sample is like the group of people that I've selected for conducting the test. Okay, that's the overall idea about this population and the sample that we have got. Okay, now that you are aware of this population and the sample, so with the understanding that you now have, let us go ahead and explore with a given data set to learn more about what does it mean by working in a hands-on manner. So we'll load the data set, and on that data set, we will perform the descriptive statistics. We'll try to describe our data set, and we'll also try to understand some more concepts about the data that we are working. So let's go ahead and let's start our Jupyter notebook. All right. Now, while explaining, there were a few questions that I have got right here. So I'll be answering as we progress in our learning journey. Okay. So I'll just start by bringing up my Google Colab notebook. I'll create a new notebook. Now, for the demonstration purpose, I'll load a data set. So here we'll make use of one of the example data set for our practice. And after we load the data set, we would go ahead and perform the statistical analysis on top of the data set. So the data set that I'll be using is called as the IPL data. So I'll start by downloading my data set. This would download the data set from the GitHub repository. Okay, so we'll download the data set. And once I download the data set, we'll start by loading the necessary libraries. So to get the better understanding as how does our data set look like, I'll start by loading my pandas library as well as the numpy library. And then we will read this data as a data frame. So in order to read this CSV file, so I'll say pd.read underscore CSV followed by the file name that we have got, that is this file name. So this is going to load this CSV file as a data frame. And once it is loaded as a data frame, we'll display first few entries of this data frame. So if I display first few entries of this data, so this is how our given data set would look like. We've got various information about our data set. We've got the serial number, player name, age, country, team. So like this, we've got various information that we have got about the data. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let us start by analyzing this given data set. Now we'll start by describing as how does the data would look like. Now, as I mentioned, when it comes to descriptive statistics, it is about performing the analysis on mean, median, and describing the standard deviation, isn't it? Now, if I want to just go ahead and perform the descriptive statistics on the given data set, in data frame, we've got a straightforward function called describe. By simply calling this describe function, this will help me to perform the numerical analysis on the given data set. So here, it gives me the information of mean, which describes the mean of my given data. Standard deviation, we have the minimum value, maximum value. This 50% is actually a median value, which means whatever the values that we are actually searching for to describe our data set for the descriptive statistics is available right here. Now here, first column is a serial number column. Maybe we can just go ahead and drop it. Tf.drop columns is equal to serial number. And I'll say in place is equal to true. Okay. Now, once I've dropped that column, yeah, now if you look into this analysis, this is what the data says. Now here, for the age column, I believe the age is somewhere in the 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look into the T runs, that is the runs scored by a person in the test matches. The minimum is 0. That means there are some cases where the person has not scored any single run, and the maximum score runs, like maximum total runs. The total runs by a particular player is 1570. Okay, so the average value of that column is 2166. Standard deviation is 3305. So we see the value which is away from the mean, that is 3305. That is what we observe right here. And here we have the median value. Median is 542.5. And this is the Q1 and Q3. Now, if I want to calculate the IQR, that is interquartile range, it is basically the difference between the Q3 and Q1. So the difference between Q3 and Q1 will actually help me to return the value of IQR, which is nothing but the interquartile range. Okay, so in this way, we can go ahead and perform the descriptive analysis of the data set and observe what this data is actually telling us. Now, like this, I can try to understand about each and every column in my given data set so that we can get a clear perspective as how the range of values are in a given data. So that is how we perform the descriptive analysis on the given data. Now, apart from this, performing the descriptive analysis on the given data, let us assume that I want to perform some high-level analysis on the string data type as well. Then in such cases, for this describe function, we can send in the input as include and send it as O. So this is going to include the object data type, that is wherever we have got the string column. For those column, it will help me to describe the data set. Like for example, here for the player name, it says total unique values is 130 and the top value is Abdullah. That means it is just a single column which has got a single value. Okay. Now observe the column of country. For the country column, there are 10 unique values that we have got in that column. Okay, 10 possible unique values. And for this 10 possible unique values, India is the one which is the most frequently occurring one, which means for this given column, the mode is actually the India, which is a most frequently occurring column. And it is out of 130 rows, it is present in 53 rows. That is the meaning of this include is equal to O. Okay, and coming to the player role, for this player role column, the total unique values observed is 4. And here bowler is the most frequently occurring one. And it is present in 44 rows. Okay, in this way, we can go ahead and perform the analysis on the on this string columns as well. Okay, that's how we can go ahead and look into this concept of the descriptive statistics on a given data. Now, apart from that, we have learned about the population and the sample. So population is nothing but the entire data set. Now, when I say sample, sample is actually a subset from the given data. Now, in this case, if I want to go ahead and generate a sample, then I can simply say df.sample. That's the inbuilt function that we have got. And here I can describe the number of rows that I want to select. For example, out of 130 rows that I've got in my data set, if I want to select 20, so here I'm selecting a sample of 20 rows. So this is what is called as the sampling when we talk about the statistical analysis. Now, when I say inferential statistics, we will analyze on the sample and we will try to go ahead and whatever the information that we get from the sample analysis, we will extend it to the population. So that is what we call it as the inferential statistics. Okay, so that's the importance of the inferential statistics whenever we are working. Now, some of the other things that you need to consider when you're working with the Python programming language, especially with the data frames are, so the other analysis would include checking for missing values. So you can say df dot to check whether we have any missing values or not by calling the sum on top of this. This will give us the column wise information, whether we have any missing values in any of the column. Now, apart from that, we can go ahead and search for duplicates. Okay, df dot duplicates will come to know, yeah, duplicated. Okay, so we can come to know whether we have any duplicate rows in my given data. We can check. This is for the check of the duplication. Next, apart from that, okay, we'll go ahead and drop the columns which are not helpful for us. Like in my example, so I can say that the column player name is not helpful for me if I'm building a statistical analysis model because the player name is unique for each and every row. That means this column is not giving me any benefit for the analysis. So I can go ahead and drop that column, which comes under the dimensionality reduction, where we can drop the unnecessary columns. And the other thing that we would apply while working in the given data set is we will apply the data transformation technique. That means in case of data transformation, we will convert this string data into a numerical format. Like I can go ahead and convert the country data in the format of one hot encoding, and then we can go ahead and convert this teams column as well into the one hot encoding. So that is how we can go ahead and perform the data transformation on this given data set so that we can have all the data in a numerical format. Now, this is followed by the outlier removal. So we can find the outlier using the box plot and then go ahead and drop those outliers from the given data. So this is the overall idea about the concept of statistics, the basics of statistics and the basics of statistical analysis on a given data set, guys. I hope you are now aware about the importance of statistics and the role it plays when it comes to the analysis of the data set. Now, I would recommend a playlist for you from our YouTube channel so that you can learn more about this statistics. If I take you to the playlist page, okay, this is the playlist page of statistics and probability for data science. So you can learn more in detail about each and every concept that I have just described. So let me just share it over here in the chat window so that you can refer it, guys. Okay, now apart from that, in case, okay, in case you want to take your learning journey further, maybe you can just check on the course that is there on our website, which involves the hands-on project as well. You can also check out this course as well. All right, so this was about the introduction to statistics. Now how do I access the source code? That is, how do I get the code file? So I'll do one thing. I'll be attaching it to the learning management system. So the way that you can access it is go to the website of manifoldailearning.in. Now in this website, click on courses. So there is a section that's called as webinar learning materials. Go over here and under this webinar learning materials, there is a section for today's session which describes the 25 August Mastering Statistics for Data Science. This is where you can access the presentation as well as the code file. Okay, that is how you can access the learning resources that I have just used in today's session. All right, guys. So with this, we come to the end of today's agenda on the statistics for data science and performing the analysis on a given data set. Now, team, if you have got any question on any of the topics which I've just described, please let me know. If you're clear, select please confirm by typing as all good. And if you've got any suggestion about what you want me to explain in the next webinar, please let me know in the chat window as well. So guys, again, thank you so much for joining in, guys. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Okay. Thank you, Ranjita. Thank you, Sridhar. Thank you, Darshan. Okay. Ume says, can you please do it on MLOps? Definitely, Ume. We'll consider it for future sessions. Thank you, Chakresh. Okay, I'm glad, Deepthi, that this has helped you. Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Kiritika. Okay. Thanks a lot again, everyone. Okay. So you'll be able to access the sessions recording in the LMS portal. That is once you log into the website. So if you go to the webinars on your left hand side of the learning screen, so that is where you can access the recording as well, right? This recording of the session for the future reference. So thanks again for joining in. I'll be ending the session. Take care, guys. Okay, Hemant says reference book for statistics. So Hemant, let me see. I think there is one book which I'm aware of. Yeah, this is the book that I would recommend. That is ThinkStat second edition. It's a free book. You can go ahead and refer the same, Hemant. I'll share the link over here in the chat window. Okay. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. And I hope to see you next time. Take care.